What's going on, man? What are you doing out here?
Shopping. Just minding my business.
I got a call about someone causing trouble. You match part of the description.
A description? You don't even know me.
Then show me your ID.
I'm not giving you ID without a lawful reason.
I can detain you until we figure this out.
Detain me, buddy? I'm the civil rights attorney.
Officer Dante Kavanaugh had spent 11 months working for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office when he made a choice that ended up costing the county $4,700,000 and completely destroying his future in law enforcement. On a quiet Saturday afternoon inside a neighborhood grocery store, everything shifted. A man stood in the checkout lane holding a basket filled with vegetables and juice, waiting to pay just like hundreds of other shoppers that day. No trouble, no stealing, no issue at all, just a man buying food. But Officer Kavanaugh noticed him and drew a conclusion based on nothing more than a vague radio alert and his own bias. That judgment sparked an incident that would result in a wrongful arrest, a fight in front of dozens of onlookers, and a lawsuit showing how undertrained officers can ruin lives in minutes. Before we go further, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please tap that subscribe button. Stories like this deserve to be told, and your support helps us uncover more truth. North Scottsdale, Arizona. A wealthy suburb with shopping centers scattered around and neatly kept streets winding through residential areas. The Basha supermarket on Puma Road sits in a busy plaza surrounded by boutiques, coffee shops, and small businesses. Saturday afternoons brought a steady stream of people, with families loading groceries into their SUVs, seniors carefully working through their shopping lists, and fitness fans picking up post-workout snacks and protein drinks. It was 1:45 in the afternoon in mid-April. The temperature outside was rising toward 88 degrees, normal for an Arizona spring. Inside the store, strong air conditioning kept everything comfortable at a steady 72 degrees. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, spreading even light across the space. Shopping carts rolled over shiny tile floors. Soft pop music played through ceiling speakers, just audible over the background noise. Cashiers scanned items with practiced ease. Self-checkout machines beeped from time to time. Everything seemed normal and quiet. Just another ordinary Saturday afternoon at a local grocery store where nothing unusual ever took place. Attorney Jamal Richardson had practiced civil rights law for 17 years. 17 years representing clients in cases of police misconduct, excessive force, wrongful arrests, and violations of constitutional rights. He had secured major settlements against 5 different Arizona law enforcement agencies, including 2 high-profile cases specifically involving the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. He also served as an expert witness in federal civil rights trials in Arizona, California, and Nevada. His testimony helped bring justice to families who had lost loved ones to police violence, and to people who had faced illegal searches, unlawful detentions, and biased law enforcement practices. He led continuing education courses for law enforcement agencies across Arizona and nearby states, covering constitutional policing, Fourth Amendment rules, use of force guidelines, de-escalation strategies, and recognizing implicit bias. These classes were required for many departments trying to maintain accreditation or follow court-mandated reforms. Over the years, Jamal had addressed hundreds of officers, explaining the limits of their authority, walking them through key court cases, showing body camera footage of incidents gone wrong, and teaching them how to protect people's rights while performing their duties. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office knew his name well. So did Phoenix PD, Tempe PD, Mesa PD, and Scottsdale PD. His work had earned him respect in legal circles across the state, and resentment from some law enforcement leaders who saw him as anti-police instead of pro-accountability. His peers in the legal field described him as brilliant, precise, and tireless in seeking justice. Clients called him a fighter who never backed down from any challenge. Defense lawyers who faced him in court called him the last person they wanted to see enter the courtroom. That Saturday afternoon, Jamal wasn't focused on police misconduct, pending cases, or the trial set for Tuesday. He was thinking about meals and his usual weekly routine. He'd spent the morning at the gym doing a tough CrossFit session, gone home to shower and change, and decided to finish his grocery shopping before the afternoon crowd made the store unbearable. He needed ingredients for his standard weekly meal plan he had been following for years. Chicken stir-fry packed with vegetables, bell peppers of different colors, fresh broccoli heads, snap peas, baby spinach, mushrooms, fresh fruit for his morning smoothies during the week, apples, bananas, maybe some berries if they looked good, a gallon of orange juice, several tubs of Greek yogurt, basic items he bought every single week without fail. A habit he had built years ago when he decided to take his diet and health seriously. He moved through the produce section with practiced precision, picking vegetables by touch and look, checking firmness and color, comparing prices out of long-formed habit. He added items to his basket carefully and intentionally. He grabbed the orange juice from the refrigerated section along the back wall, picked up the yogurt from the dairy case, and walked toward the front of the store where the checkout lanes were, mentally going over his list to make sure he hadn't missed anything important. The store was moderately busy at that time, maybe 40 or 50 shoppers spread across the aisles, a young mother patiently dealing with an overtired toddler in the cereal aisle, an elderly couple moving slowly debating which brand of coffee to buy, college students filling their cart with ramen noodles and energy drinks, a businessman still in his suit grabbing a pre-made sandwich for a late lunch, the usual mix of suburban Saturday shoppers. Everyone focused on their own lists and plans, minding their own business. Jamal chose a regular checkout lane run by a teenage cashier because some produce needed to be weighed, and he preferred talking to a person rather than using the impersonal self-checkout machines. He stood patiently behind two other shoppers and pulled out his phone to check messages and emails. A text from his wife asking if he had remembered to pick up the almond milk they needed. He laughed at his own forgetfulness, walked back to the dairy section to grab it, and came back to reclaim his spot in line. The customer at the front of the line was unloading a completely full cart carefully. This was clearly going to take several minutes. Jamal scrolled through his phone, catching up on emails and messages, completely unaware that his calm Saturday afternoon was about to turn into a traumatic event that would make national headlines and cost Maricopa County millions in taxpayer dollars. Officer Dante Kavanaugh was 26 years old, with limited life experience and even less experience in law enforcement. He had graduated from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Training Academy 11 months earlier, completing the standard 20-week basic law enforcement program. His performance at the academy had been completely unremarkable. Middle of the class in academics with no outstanding scores, adequate but unimpressive scores on firearms tests, passing grades in defensive tactics, satisfactory completion of scenario-based exercises without standing out either positively or negatively. Nothing remarkable that would make him a standout recruit, nothing on paper concerning enough to stop his graduation. Just another young recruit meeting the minimum standards and moving on to field training. But his instructors had noticed something worrying in private evaluations and internal discussions. Something that didn't quite count as an official red flag, but concerned those who had trained deputies for decades. Kavanaugh showed a troubling pattern of jumping to conclusions during training scenarios without taking the time to gather enough information first. He would assume someone was guilty based on very little, or even no evidence. He tended to escalate situations that didn't need it. He would see threats or criminal behavior where more experienced deputies saw normal, lawful interactions. The instructors had noted these patterns in their reports and evaluations. They recommended he get extra attention and closer supervision during field training. But in the end, he passed through the academy because he technically met all the minimum standards on paper. His field training officer, Sergeant Patricia Flores, recorded several concerning incidents over 16 weeks. In week 6, Kavanaugh stopped a Hispanic man outside a convenience store, demanding ID based only on his appearance. The man turned out to be a local teacher. In week 9, he trailed a black teenager through a park convinced of drug activity despite seeing no illegal behavior. The teen was actually an honor student. In week 12, he aggressively questioned a woman sitting in her car outside a bank. She was a bank employee on her lunch break. Sergeant Flores recommended extending Kavanaugh's training by 8 weeks, citing his pattern of approaching people without reasonable suspicion, trouble accepting corrections, and a tendency to see threats where none existed. Her recommendation was denied. The sheriff's office was 63 deputies short. Budget cuts had canceled academy classes. The department needed officers in patrol cars. Kavanaugh was cleared for solo patrol after 16 weeks instead of the recommended 24. That Saturday, Kavanaugh was on day shift in District 2. 3 hours into his shift, he had only issued a speeding warning and handled a lost delivery driver call. He was looking for something significant to show he was a proactive deputy. At 1:38 p.m., dispatch broadcast a suspicious person call at the Bashes on Pima Road. The caller didn't give a name and reported someone acting oddly near produce, possibly shoplifting. The description was vague, with no specific criminal act claimed. A well-trained deputy would have seen this as a racially biased call, done a walkthrough, and cleared it as unfounded. But Kavanaugh saw it as an opportunity. He arrived in the parking lot, turned on his body camera, and walked inside. He scanned the produce section and walked through the aisles, seeing nothing suspicious. Then he noticed a man in the checkout line holding a basket and looking at his phone. To everyone else, he seemed like a normal customer waiting to pay. But to Kavanaugh, shaped by unchecked bias, this seemed suspicious and out of place. His mind built a story without any evidence. This must be the person from the call, probably hiding items, standing in line to appear normal. Needs to be investigated. Do you think officers sometimes create criminal stories in their heads instead of watching for real illegal behavior? Drop your answer below. Kavanaugh walked up to the checkout line where the man stood. "What's going on, man?" the customer asked calmly, noticing the deputy coming straight toward him with purpose. "What are you doing out here?" Kavanaugh stood deliberately between the man and the exit, a tactical movement to stop any possible attempt to leave. "I need to talk to you for a minute. Step over here away from the line." The man stayed put in line. "Just shopping, minding my own business, buying groceries like everyone else here." "Is there a problem, officer? I got a call about someone causing trouble in this store. You match part of the description we received." The man's expression changed from mild confusion to recognition. He had seen this exact situation hundreds of times through the experiences of his clients over 17 years of civil rights work. A description: "You don't even know me. I've been here buying groceries for my meal prep. I haven't caused any trouble. I haven't even spoken to anyone except to say, 'Excuse me,' when reaching past someone for vegetables. Then show me your ID so we can sort this out quickly and you can leave. I'm not giving you my ID without a lawful reason under Arizona law. What's the actual probable cause? What specific crime do you think I'm committing or about to commit?" Kavanaugh's face flushed visibly red. Most people in his limited experience had complied immediately and without question when he asked for identification. They were intimidated by the uniform and the authority it carried. The fact that this man was calm, refusing politely, and using precise legal language registered in Kavanaugh's biased and poorly trained mind as defiance, as proof of guilt, confirming that this person must be hiding something illegal, and needed to be controlled and investigated further. I can detain you until we figure this out and verify your story. The man took a slow, deliberate breath, clearly aware that the situation was escalating in the very pattern he had spent years warning law enforcement agencies about during his training sessions. Detain me, buddy. I'm the civil rights lawyer who trains half this department on Fourth Amendment violations. I literally teach the class on unlawful detention that you either didn't attend or didn't pay attention to. I'm standing in a checkout line with groceries I'm about to pay for with my credit card. I've committed no crimes. I am not required to show you my ID under Arizona law, and you have no legal reason whatsoever to detain me for any reason. The checkout lane went quiet. The cashier froze. Other shoppers turned to watch. Phones came out. The store manager was approaching. Kavanaugh's face went pale. A civil rights lawyer who trains the department knows the law. This wasn't just a random customer he could intimidate, but Kavanaugh had already asserted authority in front of witnesses. His pride and ego trapped him on a path that would end his career. I don't care who you say you are, you're refusing to cooperate. That's obstruction. Obstruction of what? Investigation. There's no investigation. There's no crime. Turn around and put your hands behind your back, Kavanaugh said, pulling out his handcuffs. The store manager arrived. Officer, what's going on? This is one of our regular customers. Ma'am, step back. This is police business. The customer kept his hands raised, staying non-threatening. Deputy Kavanaugh, you're violating my Fourth Amendment rights. You have no reasonable suspicion or probable cause. You are detaining me unlawfully just because I'm shopping while black. If you touch me, that's assault. The lawsuit will end your career and cost this county millions. But Kavanaugh had stopped listening. Was acting on emotion now, anger at being challenged, fear of looking weak, pride that wouldn't let him admit a mistake. He grabbed the man's arm. Don't touch me, the man said firmly, pulling back without striking. You have no authority. Kavanaugh gripped harder, trying to spin him around. The man resisted, not violently but with the firm resistance of someone refusing to submit to illegal force. Stop resisting, Kavanaugh shouted. I'm not resisting, I'm refusing an illegal. There's a difference, call your supervisor. Kavanaugh pulled the man backward. The man kept his balance. Someone call 911, a customer shouted. They already are 911, another voice replied bitterly. The store manager had her phone out, calling corporate security and the sheriff's dispatch, demanding a supervisor immediately. Several customers were recording. Kavanaugh's body camera was capturing everything. He forced the man against the checkout counter. The basket tumbled, apples rolled, and the orange juice cracked and spilled. Kavanaugh yanked the man's left arm behind his back and snapped a handcuff onto his wrist. You are making the biggest mistake of your career. The man said, I'm an attorney, I'm a customer, I've committed zero crimes. You just assaulted me on camera in front of 50 witnesses. Kavanaugh secured the second cuff. His hands trembled as reality started to sink in. He fumbled for his radio. Dispatch Unit 472, I have one in custody at Bashas on Puma. Need transport, what's the charge? The dispatcher asked skeptically. Kavanaugh hesitated. Obstruction and failure to identify. Arizona isn't a stop and identify state unless there's reasonable suspicion of another offense. What's the underlying criminal activity? Kavanaugh had no answer. Just send the transport, he said desperately. Should officers face automatic suspension when they can't explain the crime they're arresting someone for? Let me know what you think. Sergeant Patricia Flores arrived 8 minutes later. She saw the handcuffed man, the crowd of phones, and angry store manager, spilled groceries and orange juice spreading across the floor. She knew right away this was a disaster. Kavanaugh tried to explain, but Flores stopped him and turned to the handcuffed man. Sir, I'm Sergeant Patricia Flores. Can you tell me what happened? The man's voice was calm but firm. Sergeant, my name is Attorney Jamal Richardson. I suspect you know who I am since I've taught constitutional policing classes you've attended. I was standing in checkout preparing to pay when your deputy approached without cause, demanded ID with no reasonable suspicion, threatened unlawful detention, and when I refused his unconstitutional orders, he assaulted me and handcuffed me. It's all on his body camera, witnessed by 50 people, clear Fourth Amendment violation. Flores knew the name. Every deputy in Maricopa County knew Jamal Richardson. Multiple settlements won against the county, expert witness in federal trials, the attorney who taught classes on preventing exactly this, and now a deputy who wasn't ready had just arrested him for buying groceries. Mr. Richardson, I'm removing these handcuffs immediately. I apologize, this should never have happened. No apologies, don't uncuff me. Your deputy violated my rights and assaulted me just because he saw a black man and assumed I was criminal. No evidence, no crime, just bias and a badge. Flores unlocked the cuffs. Jamal's wrists were red from the metal being too tight. The store manager stepped forward. This man has been a regular customer for years. He did nothing wrong. Your deputy harassed and assaulted him for shopping. I will provide statements. Flores turned to Kavanaugh. Badge gun, you're suspended pending investigation. The body camera footage was downloaded within hours. Store security footage preserved. Witness videos collected. The evidence was overwhelming. Civil rights attorney shopping peacefully, detained and arrested without cause by a deputy who couldn't even explain the crime. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office issued a statement that evening, apologizing and announcing Kavanaugh's administrative leave. Local news covered the story on every broadcast. The body camera footage went viral, 1 million views in just 12 hours. Jamal Richardson filed his federal lawsuit 19 days after the incident. The complaint named Deputy Kavanaugh, Sergeant Flores for failing to properly train him, the Sheriff's Office, and Maricopa County. The claims were serious. Unlawful seizure violating the Fourth Amendment, false arrest without probable cause, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, violation of equal protection, failure to train and supervise, deliberate disregard for constitutional rights, and racially motivated enforcement. The county's lawyers reviewed the evidence and came to an immediate conclusion. this could not go to trial. The body camera footage was undeniable, showing a peaceful customer, a deputy approaching without cause, clear refusal based on constitutional rights, physical force on a non-resisting individual, and an arrest without any articulable crime. The county settled 9 months later for $4,700,000 from general funds and insurance reserves, taxpayer money. The settlement included no admission of wrongdoing, though the video made denial ridiculous. Deputy Kavanaugh's termination became official 10 weeks after the incident. The letter was harsh. He initiated contact without reasonable suspicion, demanded ID without legal justification, escalated to force when the person lawfully refused, arrested without probable cause, showed racial bias, and violated policy, state law, and federal protections. His employment was terminated immediately with no chance of being rehired. Kavanaugh's name was added to the National Decertification Index, ensuring no other law enforcement agency could hire him anywhere in the United States. His union appeal was denied after reviewing the footage. He issued a statement: "I made serious errors in judgment. I let my assumptions override my training and violated his rights. I accept responsibility and apologize." The apology meant little. It didn't address the racial profiling or explain why he saw crime where none existed. The Department of Justice launched an investigation, finding systemic issues: inadequate field training, rushing deputies onto solo patrol, insufficient bias training, and a lack of supervision. Disciplinary systems rarely led to real consequences. Pressure focused on filling positions over making sure officers were competent. The DOJ required major reforms. Field training was extended from 16 to 24 weeks with no exceptions. Mandatory implicit bias training before solo patrol with annual refreshers. Body camera footage reviewed within 48 hours of all detentions. Early intervention systems to identify deputies with troubling patterns. Independent review board for use of force incidents involving minorities. Public reporting of complaints. Federal oversight for 5 years. Why do law enforcement agencies rush training and ignore warning signs just to fill slots? Comment your thoughts below. Jamal Richardson used his settlement to create a nonprofit legal defense fund, providing free representation in police misconduct cases. He continued his law practice but spent more time on advocacy, testifying before the state legislature, leading community training on rights, and mentoring young civil rights lawyers. He gave a keynote speech at a conference 10 months later. "I have degrees from top universities, 17 years practicing civil rights law. I teach officers how to do their jobs constitutionally. I have resources, connections, and credibility, and yet I was handcuffed in a grocery store for shopping while black. If this can happen to me, imagine what happens to people without those advantages." The young man who doesn't know he can refuse an unlawful search. The mother questioned in front of her children. The teenager without access to an attorney. This isn't about one deputy making a single mistake. It's about a system training law enforcement to see black people as inherently suspicious, teaching officers to demand compliance rather than earn respect, rushing people onto the streets before they understand the Constitution, protecting officers who violate rights, and settling lawsuits with taxpayer money instead of fixing problems. Kavanaugh's career is over. Appropriate. The county paid nearly $5 million for accountability, but I'm still the man arrested while buying vegetables. Still the person who tenses when seeing patrol cars. And I'm one of the lucky ones because I knew my rights, stayed calm, had witnesses and cameras, and had the resources to fight back. What about everyone else? What about people who never make the news? What about routine stops that are never recorded? What about harassment that never leads to consequences? We measure justice in settlements and terminations, but real justice would mean this never happened. Real justice would mean deputies see people as people. Real justice would mean proper training with an emphasis on de-escalation. Real justice would mean accountability before lawsuits. The reforms were significant. Longer training gave deputies more time to develop judgment. Bias training forced uncomfortable but necessary conversations. Oversight created accountability, but reforms always come after trauma. After someone pays the price, they never come soon enough to prevent harm. Jamal still shops at that Bashas' but now only uses self-checkout. No chance for confrontation. He shouldn't have to plan the safest way to buy groceries based on skin color. Dante Kavanaugh is 27 now. His career lasted 11 months. He now works at a car rental agency. His mistake follows him forever through the National Decertification Index. Some might feel sympathy, a young man whose career was ruined by one incident. But that incident was a series of choices, multiple choices. To see crime where none existed, to demand compliance without legal reason, to use force instead of talking, to arrest instead of apologizing. Every choice was his. Every choice had alternatives. Every choice violated constitutional rights. The real tragedy is that Kavanaugh's career ended. The real tragedy is the system put him there before he was ready. That staffing needs mattered more than proper training. That quotas mattered more than competence. The question remains whether we've learned anything, whether reforms will last beyond federal oversight, whether the next budget crisis will shorten training again, whether the pressure to fill positions will take priority over competence. Because if we don't fix the system that created Kavanaugh, if we don't address the problem of sending unready officers onto the streets, then we're waiting for the next attorney arrested while shopping, the next agent detained at their post, the next father handcuffed in front of his children, the next person learning that existing while black can be treated as reasonable suspicion. Comment below if you think law enforcement agencies should be legally prohibited from clearing officers for solo patrol until completing a minimum 2-year supervised training period, with demonstrated skill in constitutional policing, de-escalation, and bias recognition. with no exceptions for staffing shortages or budget constraints. Because when we put filling positions above proper training, this is what happens. Constitutional violations, million-dollar settlements, trust broken, communities traumatized. And if you think these stories need to be told, hit that subscribe button. We'll keep exposing these patterns. We'll keep demanding that agencies prioritize training over numbers. We'll keep fighting for people who deserve to live without being criminalized. This isn't just about Dante Kavanaugh and Jamal Richardson. It's about all of us and the standard we're willing to accept. Whether we keep making the same mistakes or finally recognize that proper training isn't optional but essential, that bias recognition is part of professional competence, that preparing officers isn't a luxury but a necessity. Because the cost isn't just money in settlements, it's trust broken, communities traumatized, people who no longer feel safe doing ordinary things, and that cost is far higher than any lawsuit can measure.